In section 11.2, we have the opportunity to build on the fundamental counting principle and discover permutations. Now recall, the fundamental counting principle says that to count the number of outcomes in a series of decisions, we're going to multiply the number of choices for each decision. Now, in that setup, we have one choice for each spot, right? Well, what if I have multiple items that I can choose at once? What if I can choose a subset from a group of items? In that case, we're going to need either a permutation or a combination. As we progress through section 11.2 and 3, pay attention for the difference between a permutation and a combination. Now, before we jump into that, we need to understand a special operation called factorial and its notation. So the operation factorial is denoted with an exclamation mark. So it looks like really exciting math. It is given by, we read this n factorial, but it looks like we're really excited about n. The way that we expand a factorial is we take the number n and we multiply it by the next integer less than itself by 1 times the next integer less than itself, and then we continue this process until we get down to 1. Now, that looks a little bit confusing, but you'll see it's really a quite simple operation when we actually get a number in there. For example, find the following factorials. Let's find 5 factorial. So again, 5 factorial means 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So it's the product of 5 and all of the positive integers less than itself, stopping with 1. So to evaluate it, we just multiply 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So 5 factorial has a value of 120. Now, this is a pattern that we're going to see when we study permutations. So here we're just getting used to this new notation. Let's look at the next example, 10 factorial divided by 8 factorial. If we expand 10 factorial in the top, that's 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can guess these numbers get pretty big pretty quickly. Now, in the denominator, we have 8 factorial. That's 8, 7, 6, all the way down to 1. Now, instead of actually evaluating the numerator and the denominator individually, I'm going to observe everything is being multiplied in the top and in the bottom. So we've got some like factors in the numerator and the denominator. So anytime that happens, you can cancel like factors. So notice everything in this operation is going to cancel from 8 all the way down. So we're going to end up being able to evaluate this without a calculator. Very simply, what's left, 10 times 9 equals 90. Now, let's look at another possibility. Example C. This is what our permutations are going to end up looking like. We have 5 factorial divided by the quantity 5 minus 2 factorial. We still have to obey the order of operations, so before I do anything, I'm going to evaluate what's inside parentheses first. 5 minus 2 inside parentheses is 3, so we actually have 3 factorial in the denominator. Don't be tempted to try and distribute the factorial because that does not work. Evaluate what's inside parentheses first and then evaluate the factorial. Now watch what happens with this one, which is very similar to our previous example. When we expand the factorial in the top and the bottom, again we've got some similar matching factors that we can cancel. And what's left is 5 times 4 or 20. Now, those are great examples to get to understand what a factorial is, but your calculator can also handle these calculations very efficiently. Let me show you where to find the factorial on your calculator. So if you will type in first, we're going to look at example A over here. Type in the number 5. We're going to go pick up the factorial operation from the math menu. So over there on the left side of your keypad, you can hit the math menu, and then we're going to use our right arrow key to highlight that PROB, probability menu. Notice option number 4 there is factorial. So you can either use your down arrow key to highlight number 4, or you can just type in the number 4 and then press enter. So that brings the factorial to your home screen. And when you press enter, it multiplies all the factors and displays the result, 120. And that's the same thing we got, so we did a great job. Let's check example B. Example B is 10 factorial divided by 8 factorial. So I'm going to enter the 10. I'm going to go to the math menu. Remember, we highlight PROB for probability, and this time I'm just going to type in number 4, and that jumps me down to that factorial operation and takes me back to my home screen. Now, before I press enter, I'm going to type in the divided by for the fraction bar, and then I'm going to repeat the process with 8. So type in your 8, your math menu, highlight probability, either type number 4 or use your arrow keys, and then press enter. And it works. We get 90, and that's the same thing that we got. Okay, let's do this one. Practice entering our parentheses. First, on the top, we're going to enter 5 factorial. So that's 5 math probability. I'm going to shortcut it here and just type the number 4. So there's 5 factorial divided by, open parentheses, 5 minus 2, close parentheses, and then let's go pick up our factorial from the probability menu. And press enter. How'd we do? We did great. So the factorial operation is going to be a condensed way to express factors like this, and we're going to see this with permutations and combinations coming up in the next few videos.